We know Cam Boozer is a stud, but we'll tell you the other power forwards who are going to make a splash in the 2026 NBA draft next.
You are Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings. Your daily podcast on the future stars of the NBA. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings. My name is Tyler Metcalf. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Joining me as always, my co-host and fellow draft analyst, Tyler Rucker. Rucker, how are we doing?
I'm doing great now, Metcalf. We get to talk some basketball and talk some prospects, and the countdown marches another day closer towards basketball being back in our lives. How are you doing, sir?
Good. It's that slow march of nothingness. It's like, just give me training camp, give me leaked workout videos where a guy who I know can't shoot makes 10 in a row, and we're like, oh my god, but what if he's Steph Curry? He's never Steph Curry, but what if he could be? Yeah, man, it's just that never ending drawl. We're in the doldrums of summer, but we're getting there, and we're doing it by previewing these position groups. In case you missed it last week, we did point guards, we did shooting guards. On Monday's episode, we did the small forwards, which means today we got power forwards. We're going to take a look at the power forwards who could emerge as some of the best in the country, the top returning power forwards, but we got to start with the guys who are some of the top names in this incoming class. Cam Boozer, Koa Peat, Caleb Wilson, for me, highlight the top of the power forwards of this freshman class. Where do you want to start with those guys?
Yeah, it's funny when we say power forwards. It's like, gosh, we're talking about the 1990s NBA. Yeah. No one even mentions these guys anymore. But I think this is a fun one because some of these guys, yes, might play the 3 this year, might play the 4, but I think most of these guys are going to be down in the paint. And let's start with the Booze Cruise, Cameron Boozer. Metcalf, we've talked about him a couple times on the Locked On shows and all over the place. I feel like all we want to do is talk about Cam Boozer, but I'm still at this point where the tools for everyone that's getting caught up, son Carlos Boozer, his brother's also Caden's going to be there with him at Duke, 6'9", 250. He's going to be turning 19 after next year's draft. He's a monster. He's won at every level. He's been a beast in high school basketball and in FIBA play. So I keep wondering if I'm just underselling the upside of Cameron Boozer, and I love him.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I think he's very clearly in this top 3. I think he's closer to 1 than he is to 4, if that makes sense in terms of rankings and all that kind of stuff. But like, I need a little more sizzle. I want a little more excitement with, like, wow me. And, it's like, I keep saying it, but he's going to have the most boring 25, 10, 5, 4, and 3 averages of a freshman ever. And we're going to be like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's like, those are historically great lines. Like, what are we talking about? And just every night he's going to go out there, dominate, execute, do his job, not make any mistakes. And we'll be like, yeah, but did you see that step back that Darren had? Or it's like, oh, but did you see that poster that AJ had? That was fun. And meanwhile, Cam Boozer is just dominating, not making mistakes, and winning everything because that's all he's ever done.
It's what it's going to be all year. Cam's going to be one of those, like, grab your hard hat and your lunch pail, and he's going to work, and he's hitting the clock, checking the clock every night. And it's just one of those things of, like, he's going to be consistent. He's a force down there. There's great composure. There's great strength. There's good balance and footwork around the basket. I just am right there with you. I think people are going to be chasing the eye candy of some of these other names that, like Darren Peterson, AJ DeBanza, who might be going top 2 picks.
Yeah.
We're going to be bored with Cam Boozer just dominating and being a force. And that's why it's like, myself personally, I've got Boozer at 1 because I just think he checks all the boxes, and he's going to be a high floor potential superstar prospect in this class. And I think those are rare. But I get it. I completely understand what you're saying. He's not the sexiest. If you are watching his game, you're going to be like, oh, come on, do something. And then you look down, you're like, he's got 25 and 16. What? So it's going to be one of those years.
No, like we keep saying, it's like, oh, well, he doesn't have a sexy game, but it's like, all right, well, go look at his accolades. That it's a binder. That's kind of sexy. Go look at his averages. Those are pretty sexy. All he does is win and produce. And it's like, oh, man, like, it's weird. It's really, really bizarre. Koa Peat headed to Arizona. This is a guy I've struggled with a little bit. I don't know what to do with him. I think he's really intriguing. There's a lot to love. Um, and then I think there's a lot to be questionable about. Where are you at with Koa?
Yeah, I think this is a big swing guy for me in that top 10 right now. When you're watching the highs, I think you could talk yourself into being like, hey, this is a guy that could be a top 7 pick. He's got good size. He's a forward. He's physical down there. It looks like there's a good amount of tools that can be unlocked. You watched him at FIBA, and he was a bully. He was a man amongst boys in that tournament. But I think you're also trying to say, like, okay, well, how quickly is this going to come together? What's the long-term potential here? Is this like an Aaron Gordon type of prospect for Arizona? Bear down. And I think you're trying to figure out what's the right range for him. Like, can he really make some noise and get into that top 7? Are we looking at like second half of the lottery top of prospect? I don't know. I still got questions, and I want to see how quickly this comes along. Because remember, Carter Bryant last year did not get a ton of playing time for Tommy Lloyd. Metcalf knows more than anyone because he let me know all the time. So I want to see how quickly he can kind of get into that role with Tommy Lloyd and the Wildcats.
Yeah, you mentioned Aaron Gordon, and I think that's probably the high end outcome for him. That's not meant to shade or minimizing that, because that's Aaron Gordon's a champion, really, really, really good player. And I think stylistically, that's who I hope Pete is constantly watching. My concern is that he might be more of a former Arizona Wildcat, a little more Derek Williams.
Oh, I knew you were going to say it. That hurt me. I get it. I get it. He's just one of those prospects, I think, that a lot of people have some questions of, like, okay, what is this going to look like fast? Like, how are we just going to be this player like Derek Williams? It's a great point of, like, is he just going to be more of a physical presence around the basket that has to be doing some damage on the glass and hustle plays, or can we get some versatility on the perimeter?
And he is dominant around the glass and getting downhill, getting to the rim, getting to the line. And I love that about his game. But as you scale up in competition, that gets less and less effective. You need to have a little more to your game. You need to implement a few more playmaking reads, be a little more reliable with the outside shot. I don't think the shot looks broken, but he doesn't seem to have a whole lot of confidence in it. There's some fun mid-range stuff with his jumper, which maybe if that gets like really reliable, maybe that opens up some box and elbow type stuff with him, where he can operate from those situations to implement some shot fakes and a bit of crafty footwork and not just rely on power. But like he was incredible at FIBA, and I'm not trying to diminish that. He was so good. But then you go back and watch it, it's like the vast majority of his stuff is catching out of the short roll and barreling downhill or pushing in transition. He has the ball skills and the scoring touch and the physicality to do that. And I'm sure it'll work in some form or fashion in college. I just need to see a little more.
He's a type of forward that 10, 20 years ago in that type of NBA, that style, he's probably a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Right now, I think you're looking for a little bit more, toolsy type of forward to get into that range, especially with this class. So it's just a wait and see type of talent for me. There's always a couple of these guys where I'm like, what's it going to look like in college? What is this going to look like in the next step? I think there's a chance he puts up some really good numbers to start the year, but I'm trying to see how does he get those numbers. I'm trying to see, what are we looking at, just someone that's really making an impact on the boards, or is there a little bit more of like, hey, he's stretching his shot, he's extending the range a little bit. I think that's just what I want to see. And the playmaking, I think, is a good shout out by you.
And there's some really fun defensive upside and defensive playmaking stuff with him too. So that there's another area where he can really impact winning as well. Someone who's a really similar mold to him, a little different build, a little different style, is Caleb Wilson, 6'10", 215 pounds. I believe UNC has him listed at, headed to North Carolina. Bizarre player. Really didn't like him at the McDonald's All-American game. I'm like, cool, another high motor athlete who can't really do anything. And then you really watch his stuff and you see some of the refinement and the upside with his defense, both on ball and off ball. And then how powerful of a finisher he is at the rim when he gets a free lane, explosive finisher, some fun passing stuff, especially in transition. And similar to Pete, I think the shot's a little more workable than the results may suggest. Where are you at with Caleb?
It's funny because I had the same vibes after McDonald's. I was like, oh no, this is going to be Drake Powell all over again. And I'm sorry, Brooklyn Nets fans. I was buying into Drake Powell after catching up on film, but I think there's some intrigue with Caleb because of the size, the athleticism. There's some real fun stuff on tape that I think you don't normally see when it comes to like, oh, he's got that in his game. I think this could be the wild card swing of like, hey, he could get up there pretty quickly because of the length, the tools, the athleticism, the two-way potential. There's a shot here. And yes, a 5-star prospect going to North Carolina is never going to be one that you're ignoring. So Caleb, we've said this on multiple podcasts. There's a room for someone to jump up into that conversation after the top 4 with Michael Brown and the other 3 names we mentioned earlier. I think Caleb Wilson has a chance because of the tools, the physical profile, the upside, the potential to get up there. But it's just another one. Him and Koa Peat are the same boat for me. I'm like, one of you seems like they really could make some noise because you have the intangibles, the tools, and like the physical profile you'd want to work with. It's just how quickly can you be ready to take that next step?
Yeah, this freshman class is almost turning out as the Joker from The Dark Knight, where he breaks a pool cube, tosses it, and it's like, all right, who's coming out? Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, which one of you is going to shoot? Which one of you is going to emerge as that number 5, that 5th guy to pair with, or to join Michael, AJ, Cam, and Darren. But coming up, new isn't always better. We'll tell you who some of the top returning power forwards are that you have to know next. Time to fuel up and turn it on with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Earlier this spring, me and a couple buddies took a golf trip up, 3 rounds in 2 days. Definitely needed some energy. We obviously turned to 5-Hour. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee that trip up. Visit 5-h-e-win.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. Returners, Rucker. Top ones, I think that really have a chance to break into that top 10 conversation, potentially top 5 if things really go right. Jayden Quaintance, Arizona State transferring to Kentucky. Yaxel Lendeborg, UAB transfer, headed to Michigan. And Alex Condon, staying at Florida, looking to repeat as champion. Where do you want to start?
I need to start with Jayden Quaintance. We haven't talked a lot about him, Metcalf. So this is going to be fun to hear your opinion. But this is one I'm intrigued, but I'm also kind of pumping the brakes on a little bit. Everyone thinks this is the name that's going to be next in line to really get up into that conversation in that top 5. And I understand it. He's around 6'9", 6'10", I think about 240-ish. I believe he was initially out of high school going to Kentucky, then decommitted and went to Arizona State. Now he's going back to Kentucky for his sophomore year. When he reclassified coming out of high school, he was kind of at that point of like he couldn't be a one and done because of age. Yeah. So he was one of the youngest players of college basketball last year. There's a lot of tools. He's physically ready for college basketball. He's physically ready for the NBA, but I think this is a defensive specialist right now that we're hoping can unlock a little bit offensively. I think it needs to be vanilla offensively. You need to just have him be able to be like a lob threat or a presence on the glass. I'm not needing him to be a floor spacer because there's some special defensive tools, but I'm just wanting to see how things come together at Kentucky. No disrespect to ASU. I think that's just some different expectations when you're at Kentucky. So I want to see what Jayden can do this year.
Yeah, and I remember when we saw him at Nike Hoop Summit 2 years ago, the physical presence of him was overwhelming. It's like, holy crap, who is this defensive end? And why is he on a basketball court? Because he was bigger and more powerful and stronger than everyone. And we're like, he's gonna be fine. And I was like, oh wait, no, this dude isn't even eligible for the draft yet.
He was 16 at the
he
time.
like
I
just
think, when
turned
we saw him.
17. I think.
Yeah, or 17. Yeah,
It's like, oh my god, like he is physically dominant already. And I was like, oh man, the game looks a little fast for him at times, and it did at Arizona State as well. But it's also understandable because of how young he was. But the physical presence of him, that immediately was like, oh my god. And then you see it show up on the court as well with ASU. Block rate of 9.8, offensive rebounding rate of 11.8, defensive rebounding rate of 18.4 at 6'9" as an extraordinarily young freshman. Those are awesome numbers. The big question, like you said, what is he offensively? Because we know he can rim run. We know that he's going to crash the offensive glass. Can he shoot it all? Can he finish with any sort of efficiency? Can he get to the line more consistently? Can he pass or create for anyone else? We haven't seen much or any of that yet. 18.8% from three on just 32 attempts all of last year as a freshman. True shooting percentage of 53.6, assist rate of 10.6, turnover rate of 18.9. I don't know what's going to be. Something on the offensive end, aside from the rebounding, really has to pop.
He will be, and this is very early, we're talking about this obviously in September, but he will be a name that when it gets to the combine, if he's buzzing, I would almost be like, hey, if you measure good enough, if he ends up getting to that 6'10", I think Kentucky has him at 6'10" now, but I always like subtract 1 inch because I think teams round up. If he could be 6'10", at least with a good wingspan and everything, I'd almost be like, just go all in on being a center. Like, just be a center. Yeah. Like, because I think we have him as a 4. I think that's the hope, is like, hey, he could be a floor spacer. He could be this. I watch him and I'm like, he's a type of Kenneth Faried that just needs to be a full-time center that you could sell yourself on lob threat, rebounding, keep it simple, defensive shot blocking. I think that's where I could get intrigued. But if you're trying to make him something that he's not, I think that's where you're going to run into a rude awakening. I think the fit this year at Kentucky with, Mark Pope and those transfers are going to have in that team, it's going to be really interesting.
Well, when you mentioned fit, it's tough not to look at Yaxel Lendeborg and be thrilled about his potential fit at Michigan, especially given what Dusty May did with Danny Wolf last year, almost converting him into a point guard. Lendeborg listed like 6'9", 6'10", was at UAB last year, was one of the last transfers and decommittals from the 2025 draft. Just didn't get the feedback where he wanted. And he has a really good opportunity to solidify himself as that top 20-ish kind of pick. One of these power forwards / centers that can do a little bit of everything at a really high level. Last year, BPM of 11.1, usage of 25.6, true shooting of 59.2, offensive rebounding rate 11.6, defensive rebounding rate 25.1, assist rate of 22.9, turnover rate just 14.2, block rate of 5.1, steal rate of 2.8. It's a little bit, it's a lot of green. It's a lot of what you want to see. Now the question is, you did it in the American, can you do it in the Big Ten?
I agree. I think that's the $1 million question. And I think this is an upperclassman that's going to be one of the older guys that I think NBA scouts are even like, hey, if he can showcase he can do this going up in competition, they're still going to be lining up. That was getting his buzz throughout the pre-draft process last year. Everyone that I talked to was like, we're expecting him to go to Michigan. We're expecting him to go back. But everyone was like, I like Yaxel a lot, but I'd love him to go back and play up, and let's see what we got, because there's so much versatility and tools, and him going to Michigan is such a great fit. I know, Metcalf, you being a Michigan guy, you're pumped, but as an evaluator, I'm pumped to watch him at Michigan because I just think it's a perfect marriage potentially. Great size, great nastiness, good playmaking. He's a bit of a garbage man, which is just like what teams are wanting. I think there's a chance that Yaxel could be one of the first returners in this class coming off the board, because I do think even though he's older, you know what you're getting with Yaxel right away. You're going to get a guy that could really make an impact in a lot of ways. And if he has a good year, teams are going to look at him and be like, this guy could play in the league for a long time and be impactful.
Yeah, I just really hope we see a little more consistency with the defensive stuff. The defensive playmaking numbers, like I mentioned earlier, were fantastic, but doing the little things like with rotation, like stuff that Cam Boozer has already mastered, with sliding his feet, being in the right rotation, sitting down in his stance, not fouling, that kind of stuff. If you can do that every single possession, I think we're talking about him as a top 20 guy. Another guy hoping to emerge into that realm, Alex Condon, headed back to Florida, listed at 6'11". I had him as power forward because he's going to be playing with Thomas Houck, Ruben Chinyelu, Michael Hangleton. There's going to be a lot of size on the floor for Florida. And one of his biggest calling cards is the defense. Block rate of 5.5 last year. Really talented rebounder on both ends of the floor. Shot was just super inconsistent. I thought there's some fun passing stuff with him too, as a connective guy, where you can throw him at the top of the key and the post as a short roll guy and implement some stuff from there. But I still have a lot of questions with the offense.
This is a tough part about evaluating and scouting it, is all of a sudden someone starts to intrigue and you hear the buzz, you feel it, and then you start talking to everyone and they're all buzzing about the same player. And then we get to focus on them and we get to watch them and we get to see. And then all of a sudden, all the highs are also matched with like, hey, now the blinders are coming off and we can see some of the weaknesses. So I thought Condon pops and he has some plays that really stand out and really grab your attention. You're like, oh my goodness, you don't see that often. Game against Bama on the road last year, he was just tremendous. He was making plays everywhere. But I think as the year went on, you saw the fatigue kind of been in. I think he was battling some injuries. The tournament, he was just kind of underwhelming, and it got to a point where it was like, he better go back, because I don't think it's going to be someone trending in the right direction. I'm excited to see what he can do this year. I think he probably understood, like, hey, I didn't get the feedback I wanted. I need to work on this. I need to make some noise. I think I just want to see some toughness and consistency, because I think he was hobbled and played a little bit banged up throughout the tournament, I think. I thought like 5 times he came down on his ankle and it was like, oh gosh, he fractured his ankle, and then he would be playing 10 minutes later. I was like, what's going on? So let's get him healthy. Let's see what Alex Condon can do for a very talented Florida Gators team.
All right. Well, we covered 6 of the biggest names, but there's a whole lot more who could have gotten a similar spotlight. We'll run through them next. I think the number one name that we kind of have to start off with, or at least mention, going back to Texas Tech, JT Toppin, just insane production last year. Another one of these guys where the defense is really fun. The passing improvement was really important. The scoring versatility, but it's like, oh man, if only you were 6'11" instead of 6'9". Allegedly, he may have grown an inch or two. But just one of these guys that's going to put up bonkers numbers.
He drove me insane last year. I was like, what does this guy need to do to get some more respect? Because he was putting up crazy numbers. GT Toppin, who I thought could have been a sneaky into the first round guy, or a really good value second round pick. I thought like a team could be getting a great asset or some front court depth. But going back to Texas Tech, and I'm thrilled and excited to see what he can do this year, because man, that kid produces. He's consistent. I mean, he had a stretch last year, Metcalf, where it was just like JT Toppin had how many boards? He did what? So I'm excited to see what he does, because I just think sometimes we ignore production where we're like, yeah, that's nice. But it's like, he's doing this all the time. He's a beast down there. I know I'd love him to be 6'11" too, but if he was 6'11", we probably would have been talking about as a top 10 pick last year. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what he can do at Tech.
Who else you got?
Returners, I think, gosh.
Just anyone, freshman returners, other notable names.
I'm gonna go JoJo Tugler. I know people might say he's more of a 5, but going back to Houston, he was probably one of the more impressive defensive bigs, if you want to put it that. I sometimes just combine them and say bigs, but power forwards. He's one of the more impressive defenders last year, I thought, as a prospect. I was excited that he's going back, because the offense needs to take another step. but he's a freak when it comes to his length, his wingspan. He blocks shots all the time. Like, he enjoys actually doing it, and that's the first thing he thinks about when he wakes up. So I'm excited to see anytime you could go to Houston for another year, you get a little bit more confidence in your game and your defensive ability. I'm excited to see what he can do this year.
Donnie Freeman headed back to Syracuse, one of the top freshman recruits last year. I really struggled with the defense last year. It has to be better, but some interesting floor spacing upside with him. And then if the defense really does take a leap, one of these toolsy two-way potential power forwards that could see a big rise.
Yeah, it's tough here because I'm trying to figure out, okay, the old school power forward. Who's a power forward? I think he's more of just a tweener. I'm going to go Henry Vassar going to UNC. I know we might talk about him on our big episode, but I kind of think of him as both there. So just a name I like enough. You know what, Metcalf? I can like him enough to mention him both times. So
well, hey, I'll do the same. I'll go with Hans Steinbeck.
That's a good one. There you go.
The German big. He played power forward in FIBA because he was playing next to Eric Reeby, headed to UConn. He's a center. We'll talk about him next week. Hans Steinbeck headed to Washington. Really fun, probably good to play center for them. Played power forward for Germany. Another one, Joshua Jefferson, headed back to Iowa State. Really liked him last year. Eric Daly at UCLA. He's got some fans. Just the shot really needs to get a little more consistent. But fun player who steadily improved every single year. And then just my last one, I'll hit you with the deep cut. Brennan Lorient headed to West Virginia. Some really transferring to West Virginia. Some really fun athletic tools with him. Some fun passing flashes. Not sure he can shoot at all, but the tools are fun.
I love whenever you end with that one. Always, it's the best way. Not sure, and it's not just you. A lot of people do that. Not sure he can shoot it at all, but I'll do another one just because he's so fun to me. Milan Momcilovic also going to Iowa State.
Yeah.
There's games you watch him and you're like, oh, this is a top 25 pick. And there's games where I'm like, I understand why he's not a top 25 pick. But
it's like, he played today. Oh
man, he's skilled offensively, and when he's cooking. So another guy that I'm like, hey, he's going back another year. If he could just have a little bit more consistency, like, yes, an NBA team will take a flyer because he could shoot it, and man's got some real skills. So, yeah, what a shocker. Iowa State's going to have another couple guys that are really fun to watch.
Some real George Niang vibes with him.
Yes.
All right, Rucker. This is Blast as always. We'll be back on Monday, breaking down top centers 2-0, in case you missed it, on this Monday. Already in the past. We did small forwards. Go check it out. But thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I'm Tyler Metcalf. He is Tyler Rucker. Thank you for listening to Locked On NBA Draft with No